You ever have one of those days where you think you finally outrun your own bad luck, only to find it's just been hiding out in the bushes, waiting to mug you with a clipboard? That was me. I left the city thinking I'd left the war behind. Turns out I just changed the battlefield. Let me tell you how a burned out lawyer, desperate for a little peace, found himself in a war over a lake. A war waged not with bullets, but with signs, fake maps, and more passive aggression than a church potluck. The first time I pulled my old truck up that gravel road, tires popping and crunching, the only thing I could hear was the wind cutting through those Tennessee pines. My grandfather's ashes were riding shotgun, boxed up neat and square. I'd promised him I'd keep this land safe, his words, not mine. He'd say it whenever the whiskey got low. Keep the lake our son, like the lake was some kind of secret worth dying for. For me, it was just the last thing in the world that felt real. I quit Memphis about 6 weeks before, walked out on a pile of client files and a boss who thought work-life balance meant switching to decaf. The only thing heavier than my suitcase was my own relief. You'd think a man with 900 acres and a lake that could shame a postcard wouldn't have any trouble at all. But I guess that's where the real joke starts. At first, it was quiet, the kind of quiet that sits in your bones. I spent the mornings restaining the dock, running my hands over old cedar, breathing in the way. Lake air always carries a memory. That lasted, what, a week? Maybe 10 days before the first crack in the piece showed up. It was a kid, headphones and sunglasses on, running straight down to my dock like he'd lived here forever. "Hey," I said, not even loud, just enough for the sound to hit him. "You know, this is private property, right?" He looked at me like I was speaking calculus. "Dude, this is the HOA lake. Everyone runs here." He laughed, gave me that old man yells at cloud grin, and jogged off. I stood there thinking maybe the world had changed while I was gone. Maybe I was the ghost now. 3 days later, the letter arrived. White envelope, official as church on Sunday. Clearshore Property Owners Association demanding I join up and review community water access expectations. There was this line. I'll never forget it. Failure to comply may result in limitations of shoreline access per HOA regulations. I reread it, laughed out loud, sent a polite little letter back, copy of the deed, all the words highlighted. My grandfather's name was everywhere, just as it should be. But if you think logic wins fights like this, you've never met people who think a logo on a letter makes them gods. Next week, my shoreline was covered in brand new blue signs. Members only. Private HOA access. Every 50 feet, like little soldiers marking their territory. I'm standing there, mug in hand, watching as my life turns into a parody of itself. Wasn't vandalism. Wasn't a prank. This was organized the way only bored suburbanites can organize when there's nothing good on TV. After that, it was like someone put out a free party ad with my address. Families picnicking by the dock. Firewood stacked up neat, like we were prepping for a scout jamboree. One woman even tied her kayak to my pier and started unloading snacks. Karen said the lake's community use. Now, she told me, not a flicker of guilt. You must be the new guy. Karen. There's always a Karen. HOA president, apparently. I tried to do it by the book. Showed up at the so-called office, which turned out to be a double wide, with a sticker on the door, and a receptionist chewing gum like it was paying her rent. I asked for Karen. Got a phone number and an appointment instead. That's when I started documenting. Drone footage of signs, photos of trespassers, letters, GPS stamps. You'd think I was prepping for trial. I guess part of me always is. Karen finally showed up on my porch. Pink visor, fake smile, the whole deal. She talked like she was running for governor. You can't just privatize nature, Mr. Jacobs, she said, arms folded tight. This lake has always been used by residents. You're the newcomer. I held out the deed. She didn't even look. We'll see about that, she said, and left. That's how I knew it wasn't over. Signs multiplied. Beer cans in the pine straw dock footprints every morning. I called the sheriff, he shrugged. Civil matter. We don't enforce HOA disputes. Standing on the edge of my own lake under the moon, I started to realize this was how wars started. Over land water rights. My inheritance wasn't just a house and some woods. It was a fight. The next HOA letter was less polite. Threats about noncompliance dues, administrative limitations. I sent more paperwork this time with historic plats, old news articles about my grandfather, photos of him fishing the lake alone. Didn't matter. Neighborhood kids showed up on rented kayaks like a miniature Normandy. So I put up cameras, trail cams, motion detectors, the works. Strangers on my land every day teaching their kids to skip rocks, holding barbecues, blasting country pop from Bluetooth speakers. I called the sheriff again. This time, Deputy Langston said, "Sue him. Civil court's your only hope." But I didn't want a lawsuit. I just wanted to be left alone. Then the map appeared. On the HOA's community bulletin, laminated like it was the Declaration of Independence. It showed walking trails, green spaces, and my lake smack in the middle marked as common use. My property, my name, nowhere. Neighbors stood behind me muttering about God-given access. One woman said my granddad was nice about it. Yeah, I told her he's dead now. And I'm not nice. Nobody liked that answer. I didn't care. Emails started coming. Angry ones. You ruined our harmony. We were a family before you. Water is life. We will not be fenced out. Half of them never set foot near the lake until this drama started. Mailbox got smashed. Thief spray painted on a trail sign. I started carrying a sidearm on my walks. Then, Karen came back, new visor clipboard, and a fresh round of nonsense. We conducted a community vote. She told me 84% of residents agreed the lake should be annexed as a shared amenity. They'd even submitted the map to the county. I laughed. You think you can redraw land boundaries with crayons in a vote? She just stared at me, stone cold. That's when I called in a friend Ken, old county surveyor turned whistleblower. I gave him the name of a board member who used to work in GIS. Ken got back to me. Someone had submitted an altered boundary overlay, trying to make the lake look like unclaimed public land. They filed it under my parcel. ID tried to erase my name from county records. Now it was war for real. I went to the records office, filed complaints, brought all my evidence, letters, deeds, historic maps. Called a friend at the Department of Environment. Found out the HOA was trying to get permits to build a floating dock and community facility on my lakefront. I wasn't dealing with confused neighbors anymore. This was coordinated, tactical. So I stopped playing nice. More cameras, more signs. Served Karen with a notarized cease and desist. She took it like a parking ticket. We're clarifying boundaries, she insisted. No. I told her you're forging maps and gaslighting a title holder. That's fraud. She didn't argue. 48 hours later, I woke to the sound of workers unloading lumber. On my property, orange flags staked out. I called the sheriff. This time, Langston brought backup. The workers were cited for trespassing and unauthorized construction. Karen called that night, left a voicemail. You really think this ends with you winning? You're not a community, you're a roadblock. I saved the message, poured a whiskey, and waited. Next morning, 3 bags of trash on my shoreline fast food wrappers, diapers, a flyer for Community Cleanup Day. Their way of sending a message. So I sent one back, posted the video of the dock crew online, tagged everyone, HOA, Karen, Sheriff, County Clerk, local news. The video exploded. Within a day, a reporter reached out. I knew how the story would go, evil recluse versus the noble HOA. But the thing about spinning stories, sometimes you spin yourself into a hole. A few days later, a drone buzzed my lake. Then an article dropped, "Who really owns Clear Shore?" Karen grinning in front of a map, talking about community stewardship, me cast as a trust fund villain. Backlash came quick. More trash hate mail. Someone egged my truck. Here's where things get interesting, because Karen, for all her bravado, left a digital trail. I started digging old newsletters, LinkedIn posts, zoning requests. Found a real estate flyer from 5 years back. Clear Shore described as beside a private lake. Not shared. Not HOA. I sent it to the reporter. Didn't say a word. Then, the whistleblowers started coming out. Former board members, anonymous residents, even Grayson, a guy who'd resigned when Karen tried to cook the vote. He handed me a flash drive full of board meetings, minutes, emails, everything. One email was a gem. If the public sees a boundary enough times, they believe it. We build the narrative first. Legal comes second. You start to realize people don't care about truth. They care about the story. I took all this and played it loud. Set up speakers on my dock, blasting a recording of Karen's meltdown for anyone on the trail to hear. Memes started circulating her face on a pirate flag. Local news picked up the story. Karen's image as the friendly neighborhood president started to crack. Then came the real threats: tires slashed, note under the windshield, share the lake or we take it. I was done. Filed for a restraining order, gave the green light to the reporter, told him to publish everything. When his expose landed, the game changed. I sued, and I didn't go small. Trespassing, defamation, fraudulent annexation, the works. Evidence piled up: old deeds, drone footage, testimony, emails, audio files. The case went public. HOA residents rallied, sang protest songs on my trailhead. Karen's newsletter got more desperate, calling me a tyrant, radicalizing her followers. But the cracks grew, homeowners resigned. A Facebook group popped up, people turned on her. Then one night I caught 3 people on camera vandalizing my dock, tearing down signs, spray painting fraud on my boathouse. Sheriff Langston opened a criminal case. That same week, Grayson sent over a damning voicemail from Karen Jacobs's deed will never hold up in the court of public opinion. That was her real weapon, public opinion, not law. We filed for punitive damages, $3 million and change. That number made people sit up. Residents came forward, some with documentation, showing Karen forced them to approve sign funding without a vote. Then she snapped, showed up at my dock screaming that the lake belonged to everyone, calling me an invader. I hit record. Walter, the security guard, showed up just in time. "Ma'am, you're violating a court order." She stormed off, her loyalists trailing behind like kids who lost their lunch money. The day of the hearing, the courthouse was packed. Judge Clean didn't suffer fools. My lawyer laid out the evidence. Karen's defense tried to muddy things, but her own board member, Glenn, cracked on the stand, admitted to filing false maps at her request. The emails about winning the narrative landed like bricks. The judge wasn't impressed. When the verdict dropped, it felt like breathing after weeks underwater. The lake and land reaffirmed as mine. Permanent injunction against the HOA. Karen and her crew personally liable for millions in damages. All evidence sent for potential criminal charges. Her lawyer asked for a delay. Denied. Karen didn't get to make a statement. She'd said more than enough. 2 months later, the sign went up: private lake trespassers will be sued. Walter helped me bolt it down. The neighborhood changed. HOA dissolved legal fees, gutted them. People mow their own lawns now. Nobody complains about pink flamingos in the yard. Karen. She pled guilty to everything but arson, falsification, harassment, defamation, fraud. 11 years. No parole for 6. Someone filmed her being walked out of her house screaming about our lake. Played on the news for a week. Life settled. The reporter got an award. The story went national. I didn't go back to Memphis. I kept the house, restored the dock, even partnered with the Wildlife Authority, turned the lake into a private ecological zone. No more parties, no more drones, just water and wind and the peace my grandfather loved. Sometimes a ranger or a student stops by. They knock first. I invite them in. Sometimes we sit on the porch, drink coffee, laugh about the summer of madness. But mostly it's just me and the water now. Quiet at last. 6 months after I found a letter in my mailbox. No name, just a line scribbled on notebook paper. You were right to fight. No signature. Didn't need one. Didn't. So I guess that's it, right? The war's over. The lake's safe. But here's the thing. I keep turning over in my head. When does a community stop being neighbors and start becoming a mob? How far would you go if you thought you were right and the law was just a suggestion? If you've ever been in a fight like this, if you've ever stood up when everyone wanted you to sit down, I'd like to hear about it. What did it cost you? And more than that, was it worth it?